who's giving the time? Okay, thanks. Here. So, how many of you, if you were to talk to yourself when you were a kid, maybe about 5 years old, how many of them you would give yourself the same advice that your parents were giving you, that you always argued with and disagreed with, and you'd say, oh my God, I'm sounding like my parents more and more. Well, we all go through this, and it's because we're constantly changing our views on things, and it's just part of life. It's how we grow. We change constantly from the basic things. How many of you, when you were kids, you hated eating your vegetables, and I love vegetables now, but I hated eating vegetables when I was a kid, and sports, you grow up liking sports, or you grow up not liking sports, and now that you're an adult, you like going to the bar and watching sports with your friends or basketball, and those are the basic things that are constantly changing, and you can see those pretty easily. There are also more of the abstract things like personality, and that gradually changes with your life experience, and even religious views may change, and that's just part of growth. There was a man named Huxley who said, the only completely consistent people are the dead. And I think that's pretty true, because it's I wouldn't say impossible, it's very unlikely that you'll be the same consistent person throughout your entire life. And but that's not a bad thing. You may contradict yourself at different times, different ages. You may be a completely different person now. And in fact, this is actually a constant problem with the high divorce rate. One of the main reasons that people get divorced is say, well, we're two different people now. That's a common excuse for that. People grow apart, people change. But there was also a philosopher, and I forget his name at the moment, but he says that everyone at some point in their life needs to reevaluate the grounds for which their entire beliefs are based upon. And he says it's such a tough thing to do that even he himself, as a philosopher and a writer, he actually put it off until he had maybe 10 good years left in his life, and then he started writing these meditations. And that's very true for all of us. You grow up with these beliefs, most of them set by your parents, and they're pretty much grounds for your whole life, and you never really think about them. But he says everyone in our life, we need to reevaluate things, but it's such a difficult thing to do. People avoid it and procrastinate on that. But it's really important to take a look back and just kind of see where you are, get your thought process, and try and understand yourself a little bit better, kind of discover who you are. There are like myself, when I was younger, I was actually raised as a Mormon, and I don't necessarily disagree with their beliefs. I understand why they believe it. But when I was about 13 years old, I found that I was mysteriously sick every Saturday because I found myself not wanting to go to church, and my parents said that I didn't want to go to church, but they kind of played along, and finally, it took a couple of years of that until I finally said, well, why do I not want to go? And I kind of had to reevaluate my belief system, and eventually I went to my youth. I said, I don't really feel comfortable. I understand what you believe. I don't agree with it, and so you change constantly throughout your life, and it's a difficult thing to deal with, and many people are completely unaware of it. But it's important to every once in a while sit down and try and think, how am I different from the previous me, and why am I different? And get that mindset so you can more understand yourself and your own belief system. So I hope that most of you after this will maybe go back and just kind of think about how you were when you were younger, and maybe some of the experiences that you've had that made you who you are today, and maybe ask a lot of questions. Well, why do I think this way now as opposed to back then? So I hope all of you take that chance to do that.
All right, Michael, you seem pretty engaged with the subject matter. You had some interesting ideas. I think they could have been structured a little bit more. I didn't really catch a preview, and it did feel like you went over the same grounds a second time when you finally realized you've got a personal example that you can use on that as well. And I appreciated the personal example. It just felt like it should have been integrated into the, when you're talking about the philosopher reevaluating your life, you say, for example, I did this kind of thing myself. I think it would have fit in a little bit more effectively there. Presentation issues, I didn't see anything that was a major problem. Your voice projects pretty well. There's pretty good variety. Occasionally, I think maybe you could use a little bit more inflection and energy, but nothing that was problematic, and usually it flows pretty smoothly. The only thing that I thought was noticeable from a delivery point of view, from the visual aspect, is that you have most of your gestures are your right hand, and your left hand is doing the little teapot thing. You've got the hand on the side here like this, and you look like you've got a handle. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here's my handle, here's my spout, that kind of thing. And you've got your hand over there the whole time, and the other hand moves quite a bit, but this one, it just feels like I'm here, and and you're thinking things through instead of being engaged. Now, maybe you're not ambidextrous. You don't have to be really ambidextrous to be able to do those things, but you do want to, I think, be a little bit more engaged that way. So that was a little off-putting, but it was not something that was a huge problem, and it's certainly not something that isn't easily fixed. Your eye contact with the audience is excellent. Your orientation toward the audience is really solid for the most part. Your posture is generally solid there. And like I said, I think that you had some nice ideas that you did a nice job developing. Maybe a little bit more structure would help. All right. Thank you.